and it's all around just going for creativity and just letting fear sit back.
Today I'm talking to L K Howells. LK designs and delivers environmental education programs inspired by nature, led by creativity, driven by solutions, and based on the notion that small actions done by many can make a big difference. This year, she was one of 15 out of 166 applicants that received the Creative Island Climate Action Fund for her project Stories of Change. Stories of Change is a storytelling project that tells the tales of good people around Ireland, doing good things for earth care, people care, and fair share. She believes creativity is instrumental in communicating the challenges of the climate crisis and believes stories and solutions are an effective vehicle to stimulate interest, ignite the imagination, and empower community-led climate action. When she isn't busy writing stories, organising exhibitions, or exploring South Kerry, she is working for Concern worldwide, planning COP27, a climate action festival of music, art, talks, and workshops. She has a quote from Dr. Seuss: "Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you." Please bear with us for the first few seconds as the volume is quite low until we move the microphone in. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. I've never done a podcast before, so I'm delighted. So Stories of Change is a project that has been funded by the Creative Climate Action Fund. So it's actually a really interesting fund. It's the first of its kind in the EU that looks at how you use creativity as a vehicle to not only communicate the crisis, the climate crisis, but it looks at how you use creativity as a vehicle to explain and showcase some of those solutions that we really need to be doing to kind of get us to where we want to go, that more livable future that everyone keeps on talking about. So Stories of Change is a project that I started actually back in 2015 when I went to Paris to COP21. So I was working in Bristol University at the time, and I managed to get enough funding to take away 4 students to go to Paris. And I remember being on the streets with these young people and thousands of other people, and I started to have snippets of conversations with various people that had cycled to the festival, or some of them had flown over, and all of them had their own story. And I just wanted to capture that. I wanted to harvest like why they were there, what their hope was for the future, and what they were doing in their own world, in their own country, to kind of adapt and mitigate to some of the huge challenges that we're facing. And so I just got my phone out and started to record, and I started to kind of take pictures of people. Unfortunately, like that actually never went anywhere, and it's on a computer or on a hard drive somewhere. But this kind of idea of stories and photos really stuck with me. And then I went away traveling back in 2017, and I went to Sri Lanka and Dubai and lived in New Zealand, and I took the format of these stories and photos with me and started to kind of interview people. So I interviewed this amazing woman in Dubai who was involved with the slow food movement, and she was growing food in Dubai on rooftops, which is incredible because it's so hot in Dubai, and she was growing this food to make sure that the restaurant that she was working in had fresh produce that wasn't flown in. And I went to New Zealand, and I spoke to loads of organic farmers and sheep farmers, and just started to collect these stories. Unfortunately, my boyfriend at the time deleted all of the stories off his phone. Heartbreak. Obviously, we're not going out anymore.
Technology, when it lets you down, it lets you down.
I know, and obviously I was travelling and I was on my holiday, and I really carved out time to do these interviews, and they were all gone. But look, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was trying to take the heat off him there, but
he's gone. He's out. But as some of these things happen, they have their own way of weaving their way back into your space when it's the right time. And when the Creative Island Fund came up again, I applied for the Stories of Change, and it was one out of 166 that were chosen. Sorry, there's 166 applications put in for the fund, and 15 were chosen, and I was one of the 15. So amazing. I was amazed. So Stories of Change, essentially, I've been on the road with a photographer for about 4 months, travelling to 4 counties, so Galway, Donegal, Kerry and Clare, and I've been reaching out to people that are in the community making change. I've been documenting their stories and I've been taking their photos. Well, Jackie Devaney Reid from Donegal has actually been taking their photos. So I've worked with various different partners to make sure that there's community consultation in there. We put out a nomination form to get the community to nominate these change makers. And it's this idea that we go beyond the people that are in the news all the time or these people that are influencers on Instagram. It's digging a bit deeper kind of into that community level, because that's where kind of change happens. And when communities talk to other communities, it's far more relevant, that the solutions are far more feasible and people are far more likely to take action. So I am just in kind of the culmination of the project now, which is putting on 4 exhibitions and celebrations of these change makers in the 4 counties. So I'm off to Donegal today, actually. That's where I'm going. And tomorrow we have our exhibition and celebration. And this is an opportunity for people in Donegal to come together, to read the stories of these change makers, to read their climate solutions, and to really celebrate these people. So we put on a huge feast. So food is a massive, massive part of the project. And I've been working with William from Wild Strands, who is a incredible cook, and he uses only local and seasonal food. He cooks the food with the community through workshops, and he uses traditional seaweed methods to make things like the stocks and the salad dressings. And honestly, what he creates out of the kitchen is just mind-blowing. And he's been cooking for about 70 to 80 people, in just him and with community support.
So he's done all the events.
He travels with me.
Where is the event in Donegal?
The one in Donegal is in Buncrana in St Mary's Hall, and it's this incredible old cinema. And if you go upstairs, there's a big old cinema, and we are showcasing the characters of Stories of Change, which is a short documentary that I've put together, which highlights the people that I've been interviewing. And then the next exhibition celebration is in Kerry, in Waterville, in collaboration with Learning Landscapes and with Sea Synergy. And we've got a morning of paddle boarding, of kayaking, of foraging, mushroom foraging in the park, seaweed foraging. Then we've got the launch of the exhibition where people can come and read these changemaker stories, have food, gather together, listen to some traditional music, and really kind of celebrate and change that narrative that we have, which is always doom and destruction. And how do we shift away from that and actually move to a place whereby we are celebrating people that have been for a very long time recreating, reinventing and reimagining a solution that is totally there. None of these stories, none of these solutions are made up. Like, they're very realistic, like people are doing them. So it's just, we're creating a different kind of news.
And to get excited about the future. Yeah.
It is exciting. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important to say, whilst it's exciting, this project isn't about denying the huge challenges we face. You know, like, there's no naivety in this project. Like, we know, and if you are unsure about that, then I can refer you to the IPCC reports, which are done by hundreds of scientists all over the world, which show the climate science. This is taking the climate science and say, brilliant, it's there, it's scary, it's real, but let's look at some of those solutions that are happening, not even globally, not even nationally, but in our own local area, and let's try and see what we can do as an individual.
That's really wonderful. So can you tell us about COP27, which is something you're going to in the near future?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So COP27 is an event I've been creating with Concern Worldwide, who I work with part-time, and Happenings, which is an outdoor kind of yoga, outdoor cinema festival production company. And we are creating COP27, which is a festival that uses creativity as a way to talk about some of the challenges we face. Very similar to kind of Stories of Change ethos. And it's been scaffolded around this idea that if we bring fun and we bring solutions and we bring music and we bring our community together, then we're far more likely to be able to have an open dialogue around some of the things that we can do. So at COP27 we have Keela headlining, which is a really big band. We have Attention Bebe playing. We have amazing global guest speakers coming to talk on 2 panels. So the first panel is called So True, and it's looking at sustainable fashion. So we have some scientists, some lecturers, and we have a Mexican dyer who is coming to talk about how you look at where your clothes come from, how they're dyed, how they're sourced, and the farms that they come from, and how that impacts our environment and the farmers.
So real proper traceability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. which is something that's often lost because we're so consumed by convenience, and that's the reality of the situation. And none of this is about pointing the finger. It's not a pointing the finger activity and saying you're doing it wrong. It's just saying these are some of the solutions. Some of these solutions might fit you and your lifestyle, some of them won't. Let's see where we get to, really.
Yeah.
So the second panel is on creativity as a vehicle to take climate action, and we are really lucky to have a youth activist from Uganda who is visiting the country, coming to talk about him setting up a spoken word and creative youth, I guess it's a youth network in Uganda, to talk about some of the crisis that they're facing. And we also have Dorothy, who has come from Malawi, who's a farmer, who's coming to talk about her experience as a farmer in Malawi. And we've also got actually a guy coming over from America who works particularly looking at Indigenous rights, and again looking at how they use music and fun to talk about what's happening in those kind of communities. So we've got global guest speakers, we've got amazing musicians, we've got marine touch pools, so you can come in and touch the marine life and get up close and personal with it. We've got the climate ambassadors running a big swap shop. We've got Rachel running a Nature Connect and art workshop. We've got Zeitgeist, which is a big flea market coming. So we've got everything for all different age groups.
That sounds amazing. And where is that on, and when is it being held?
Sure. So it's on Friday the 14th and Saturday the 15th of October in TU Dublin, in Grange Gorman in the Lower House. So the event kicks off on Friday evening with a live jazz band and an outdoor screening.
So is it for students, or is it for everybody, or where do you get tickets, or how would you?
Sure. So it's for absolutely everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The primary target audience is 18 to 35, but it is open to everyone, and we do have family activities in there too. And you can get tickets on Eventbrite. So pop onto Eventbrite and you can buy your tickets there. Just search COP On Festival and it will come up, and they're all free tickets.
Oh, free tickets.
Yeah.
No, that is truly amazing. And you might be planning a little trip to Egypt. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I am very fortunate that work Concern Worldwide is sending me to Egypt to COP27, which is hilarious almost, because Stories of Change started back in 2015 in COP21 when I took away 4 young people to experience COP, and now in 2022 I'm revisiting COP in Egypt, and I'm also taking away a youth ambassador who we interviewed yesterday, and she got her place. I won't say who it is just in case she hasn't been told, but we're taking away a 25-year-old law student who is coming to bring the voice of Ireland to Irish policymakers at COP27, and she's going to be raising awareness and reporting through her Instagram and through Concern's Instagram, so people can follow and learn what is COP, what's happening, and what are the outcomes.
So what is COP? Can you tell our listeners who might not be familiar with it?
Absolutely. So COP is the Conference of the Parties. So it's a gathering of all world leaders, and they sit down around tables for hours and they talk about what their countries are going to do to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So the last one was in Glasgow, and the one in 2021 was in Paris. And basically they decide what sanctions or what actions they can take to reduce their carbon footprint.
Okay. And have you got any suggestion for the listeners how they can reduce their carbon footprint, quite easily, some little measures that they can take?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first one would be join a community that is doing something. So you can have a look online for a group in your area. It could be a biodiversity group, it could be a swap shop group, but just connect with people that can support you when you're doing things. And I can definitely recommend joining as a climate ambassador, which is an Antashka program. You apply to join and you get given loads of free resources and training into how you can take action in your community. So I think connecting with people is really, really important. I think getting out in nature is the second thing that I think is the most important. I'm a real believer in that you can't protect what you don't love, and you can't love what you don't experience. So just taking time, whether that's 10 minutes a day to go and sit in a sit spot, or go to have a sea dip rather than a sea swim, or go and walk in a forest or even in a local park, is another way, because once you're connected to your surroundings, then you're far more likely to be enthused to do something about it. So connect with your community, go out in nature. And the third thing I think is read or research or listen to some podcasts. There's some really cool things out there. So educate yourself on the things that you can do, and don't try to do it all. Like, the climate crisis is not your fault. It's not my fault as an individual. It's a systemic problem that needs big changes, but those big changes happen with small little drops and small people doing small things, and that influence being felt. And ultimately that will change businesses and that will change policy. So do the things that you can do, always strive to do better, but don't give yourself a hard time when you can't do it all.
Yeah, we're not perfect. We're all hypocrites at some time. So, we can all have holes picked in us, but we try our best and we make the best decisions that we can at the time, and bring people into nature as well, because that's something, introduce people into nature. So that's really, really great advice. And you had a couple of recommendations for books that people might like to read?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big one that came into my life when I was actually in Barcelona visiting a friend is a book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Some of you may or may not like that, but Big Magic is so fabulous. It's very readable, and it basically looks at how we need to embrace creativity. And often when we're creative, we have fear sat on our shoulder guiding us, and it's being like, okay, fear, you can sit in the side seat, but you're not driving. I'm driving. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to go with my creative project. Don't play with the windows. Don't touch the map. Don't put the stereo on. You're there, you're in the side, but I'm driving creativity. And it's all around just going for creativity and just letting fear sit back. And I think that was a really important thing, because often we're really scared of creativity, but it's in us. Like, we've come from a creative community whereby, like, our families or generations and generations have been shoemakers or candle makers, and all of that kind of creativity is in us, but it's kind of can be a bit squashed because our ego gets in the way, or fear. So this book really explores and empowers us to really take on creativity and let it drive.
That's interesting, because I read Eat, Pray, Love years ago. Of course, everybody did. And then I wasn't really attracted to it, so I got to read it now.
Please do.
Yeah.
It's one of those books that when I read it, I sent to quite a few of my friends. So yeah, I really, really recommend it. And the second one is Eat Like a Fish. And it's an American fisherman's journey as he moves into regenerative seaweed farming. And it's such a beautiful read. He is hilarious in his writing, and it just looks at how exciting all of these options are. Like, there are sustainable solutions in abundance everywhere, and sometimes we just need to look around and dig a little deeper. And he transitioned from his love of being a fisherman, but couldn't deal with kind of the exploitiveness of it, and moved into seaweed fishing. And seaweed fishing, I don't think you fish for seaweed, that would be weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He grows seaweed and
Seaweed
harvests
farming,
it.
yeah,
Exactly.
wonderful.
And it's looking at an amazing farm that regenerates, that stores carbon, that's underneath the water, and it doesn't cause any harm. And it's just such a wonderful book to see his kind of transition with a comical touch, which is what we all need. We need a bit of a laugh sometimes.
Yeah, we do
don't
need a story and a laugh as well.
We need a laugh.
And did you have one more?
No, but I can give you a good poetry book that
Okay.
I like. Rupi Kaur is one of my favourite poets, and she does a lot around embracing being a woman and just embracing who you are. And I really think that everyone should read some of her poems. It's a real nice coffee table book that you can just pick up, and there are a few lines, and they just make you feel fab about yourself. And I think we all need to feel fab about ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, I love getting recommendations for books. Do you want to tell us about your creative process? Do you have a process? It might be interesting for other people, or does it just come organically?
Do you know what? I just never thought I was creative, and I'm not good at art. Like, I can't even draw a stick person. And it's only as my career kind of has developed that people have always tried to get me into ideas rooms or think tanks. And it's a thought process that kind of, I don't know where it comes from, but I think I was told for so long that I wasn't creative. And then all of a sudden, when people gave me confidence and was like, oh, we're just doing an idea session now, okay, can you just pop in this room? And then I think as that grew, I became more confident. And Yeah, even you asked me that question, I don't know what to say because I don't feel like I am a creative person.
You clearly are a creative person. You're organising events with hundreds of people around the country, and feasts and art and music.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a process yet. I think I organise and I do what I like to do. Like I plan my perfect day, and for me it's around getting people together. It's about eating, love food, and it's about dancing and music and movement. It's about well-being, doing yoga. It's about going out and foraging and learning what's around us. It's about jumping in the sea. So I feel like if I plan my perfect day, then hopefully other people will like it.
It's going to be a lot of other people's perfect day as well.
Good.
So how did you get interested in climate change?
So for me, interesting. I wasn't involved in it when I was younger. So I was brought up in Guildford, which is quite a white middle class area, and my mum isn't necessarily very political or into environmentalism. And I guess back then it wasn't really a trigger word or a thing when you talked about sustainability or eco-friendly. Like no one really did it. But when I went to university in Bristol, I volunteered at Bristol Big Green Week, which is a festival in Bristol they put on every year, which celebrates Bristol as a green forward-thinking city. And I somehow got an internship to work in media and comms there, God knows how. And I ended up being artist liaison to Vivienne Westwood. And Vivienne Westwood is an incredible fashion designer. She's totally wacky. She's very revolutionary. Is that the word? Yeah.
Totally.
And her main slogan is buy less, choose well. And she sells catwalk fashion, but she is completely and utterly invested in sustainable fashion. And I knew nothing about fashion. And I ended up in this room of fashionistas, were kind of sitting there with bated breath, like waiting for her to talk about her latest collection. And she ended up talking about sustainable fashion and the impact of fashion on the environment. She started to talk about communities in the Amazon, that the trees were being cut down, and that she started to talk about, I remember the weirdest thing, soap nuts, soap nuts are things that they grow naturally on trees, and you put them in your washing machine and they naturally wash. They're a natural detergent for your clothes. And she was telling everyone about the impact of washing our clothes all of the time and how we should move to more like soap nuts and natural cleaning products. And this was like 15 years ago or something. And that for me was a trigger that she spoke so passionately and she cared so much, and she really brought great insight that from there it was honestly like a domino effect. I started volunteering for a food waste organisation. I ended up going away to India for 3 months, and another big part I think is my privilege that I've travelled quite a lot, and I've seen how, sure you don't even need to travel to see how spectacular the world is, we're surrounded by it here in Ireland, but I think I've had the privilege of seeing my own privilege reflected back on me, and I've seen how beautiful the world is, and I just feel like if I'm not here to try my best to protect that, then what's the point? So I think it's just been something that was ignited in me when I was like 21 at uni, and I was very lucky to get a job working as the first Green Team coordinator, and my job was to set up the first Student Union's Green Campus, which was a great job, a great opportunity. And since then, I've worked in the Sustainability Trust managing the education team in New Zealand, and I've worked with Eco UNESCO and Concern Worldwide, and I own my own business called Essentially Eco, and my job is essentially going to open the dialogue into communities to talk about climate action and what people can do. And then I do a lot of consultation around like waste management systems and reducing energy in businesses. And I've just grown through experience rather through like education, and that's just worked for me. And I was never really excelled at school, and I have got a degree in English literature and journalism. I don't think it's because I did very well. I just think they liked me. I think they're like, she's all right.
Likability is very important as well, and you can see how Vivienne Westwood just ignited that little flame, and how important it is for people like you to stand up now and, as you say, put fear in a box and just stand up and look. You're going to do an event, some things could go wrong, the cooker could blow up, but you're going to do it anyway. And who knows, there could be one young person there that listens to you and say, well, 10 years ago I went to this event and I listened to this lady speaking, and now I've gone on to do that. So that is really all you can do. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And it is really impactful. I wrote a programme called Climact, where I worked with youth reachers on looking at what is climate justice and what can we do locally. And there was a group of lads in Ballymun who took part in the project, and they were cameras off at the beginning, so uninterested. And oh my goodness, by the end, after the 6-week programme, they presented their action projects at the Project Slam. So the Project Slam is where all the youth reachers come together online and they present their climate action project, and they get to win money to turn their project into a reality. And so I had not really been speaking a lot to Ballymun, and I didn't know whether or not they were going to turn up. I knew they were really nervous about presenting.
Did you know what their project was?
Yeah, I did. I knew what their project was. They'd given me kind of an overview. But the 3 guys came on and they spoke about how they'd been researching chemicals in cleaning products and how it went into the water and ruined wildlife, and how they'd made alternative cleaning products out of all natural ingredients, and they had trialed and tested them all and put different essential oils in them and made batches, and how they wanted to sell these cleaning products to other youth reachers to transition all of the youth reachers away from bleaches and chemicals to natural products. They'd created an enterprise out of this project. I was like, lads, this is unreal. Like, you are amazing. And they'd were so proud to show us their little videos that they'd made. And this is why I love working with young people so much, because they just blow you out the park and they just have so much innovation, and it's great. They're just brilliant. And that's just one story of many I have of working with young people that just come up with such innovative ideas. And you know what, it's about making it relevant and making it exciting and making it fun, because then that causes actions and ideas.
Yeah, no, that was giving me the shivers. And I agree about young people. We have lots of young people working here, and I expect as much as any adult from them when they're working, and I expect them to make mistakes as well, because they're young people. And my goodness, we have some amazing people working for us. So I'm not ageist in any manner.
Neither am I, but when I was interviewing the youth climate ambassadors, she did definitely refer to me as an old person, and I was like, hang on a second, you are not going to get this role if you...
Oh my goodness.
Well, I think it was more that she referred to herself and as a young person,
Us
which
young
made us
people,
young, and I was
us
like,
young people,
hang
excuse
about,
me.
I'm still a young person, thank you. She ended up getting the position, so it was like, she wasn't that bad.
Well, look, there's so much to talk about. We can't talk about everything, but I'm going to put everything in the show notes so people can follow what you're doing, and follow you on Instagram, and find the dates of all the events and everything like that. So thank you so much, LK, for coming and talking to me today before you have to zoom off up to Donegal for the next event.
Brilliant, and thank you so much for having me here in this absolute slice of paradise. I feel like I'm going to be a regular guest. You're not going to be able to get rid of me.
Good, you remember your toothpaste next time.
I will.
Okay, thanks a million.
Bye.
News from Borough Nature Sanctuary. This week we hosted a lovely conference with Zenergy Consulting. The guests stayed in the slow cabins, and the venue room looked spectacular, with big bunches of foliage decorating the high beams. Also, RTE were at the Borough Nature Sanctuary interviewing people for the proposed Galway to Athlone cycleway, as we are on the proposed route.